Hello everybody. We get to play one of my favorite games today, and that's how much did I spend on the POS behind me. You see, when I bought this car, I bought this as a budget STI that I could learn to tune on. And granted, we are going to learn to tune on this. We've already started to learn, but I, surprise Pikachu face, did not expect to spend as much money on this thing as we did. And you know, you'd think I wouldn't be shocked or surprised with how many times I've done this. I mean, with GD chassis, I've done this with my 05 STI, my 04 STI, my 07 STI, this 06 STI. So just in GDs alone, that's 4 different STIs that I have continued to do this on. I would like to not have to do this anymore. So, you know, maybe we may end up keeping this car long term. I don't necessarily know. But my mentality going into this, and a lot of people ask this, is should they buy a clapped out or a budget STI, rebuild, and will it save them money versus just buying a clean one off the bat? I'm gonna tell you right now, no. It's gonna probably be cheaper in the short term, I'd say, to buy a clean one versus one like this and then have to do everything that we did. So to get the ball rolling, I am going to include the cost of everything. I'm also going to not add the cost in for parts that were supplied from some companies. I mean, we bought the majority of the things, but some things were supplied to us. So the car itself is a 2006 WRX STI, 150,000 miles, clean title, some rust on the car, but none on the chassis. We picked up the car for $8,000 knowing that it had a bad engine in it. And realistically, I knew there were some cosmetic things with the car. I did not foresee the amount of problems that were actually wrong with this car when we got it. In my mind, it was just an engine. It was way more than just an engine, by the way. So about $8,000 for the car. Now, knowing that we bought this car with a blown up short block, I also knew that it had a cracked cylinder head and it was just peeing out oil out of the cylinder head. So I kind of knew that it needed a long block already. But for the bottom end, it's a Type RA short block. I opted to put some Manley 9950 pistons in it. Granted, I didn't necessarily purchase them for this car. I actually purchased them for a client engine, but I don't use 99.5 pistons in client engines. I use 99.75, so I accidentally bought the wrong pistons for another car. So I had to buy I had to buy that engine 99.75, so I had this extra set 99.5, which I just tossed in here. So the short block retail is $2,204.30. Pistons come in at $762.84. Now, because I'm going to be learning to tune on this car, it's not necessarily a bad idea to have a forged piston in there. It will take to some of my oopsies a little bit better as we learn to tune. For the cylinder heads, I did buy a used set of B25 cylinder heads. I actually bought 2 of them. I'm only gonna take the cost for one of them because one of them I should have inspected better, but that's whatever. So for the cylinder heads, $500. In those cylinder heads, we reused the factory cams. We installed a set of GSC Valve Springs, GSC intake and exhaust valves. And then we reused the buckets and the cams like I mentioned. With those, because I'm going to learn to tune on this, I want to push the car a little bit in the future. The valve springs and the valves are just there as kind of a reassurance thing. Not necessarily do you have to do them, but it's not a bad idea to do. A lot of this is like while you're in there type of stuff, might as well do it. For the gaskets, entire engine gasket kit, I put $0 because I've got bins of Subaru gaskets sitting around the shop, from head gaskets to literally intake runner gasket, you name it, I've got it. I've got a bin full of extra gaskets. So that thankfully didn't cost me anything. The valve springs came in at $282. The intake and exhaust valves for both of those came in at $260. If you were to buy all of the gaskets and a gasket and seal kit, that comes in at $350.08. New oil pump, obviously all new oil components on this car. So brand new OEM 11mm oil pump, $160.75. OEM Oil Pan, because I drilled a hole in the old one in a little Instagram reel that I did for funsies. New OEM STI Oil Pan, $104. I opted to do the Killer Bee oil pickup combo, which is just the pickup tube and the windage tray with a factory pan. So for that pickup and windage tray, that was $252. For the rest of the oil components, that's gonna be your AVCS cam gears, your oil control valves, your oil cooler, things like that that run throughout the engine. That was another $1,085. The oil components get real expensive in Subarus when you do a blow-up job, and since this car did a blow-up job, well, it didn't actually do a blow-up job. It was actually really reliable on the vegetable oil when I put the vegetable oil in it and ran out of vegetable oil, but I feel like I just said the word vegetable oil way too many times in way too short of a period, and now it kind of sounds weird. But Yeah, we replaced all of them, which is what you should do. Timing belt kit, we are running the Company 23 timing belt kit that was provided to us. The timing belt kit and the water pump from Company 23, so huge shout out to them. That timing belt comes in at $300. The water pump comes in at $99.95. For the rest of the timing stuff, I opted to do the RCM Alloy exhaust cam gears. Those were $249. With all of the timing stuff that we do on all these cars, with literally any EJ at this point, we always put the TIC FU Cam Bolts on there. They're a 17mm head versus a 10mm Allen. The Allens like to round and strip over time with extended use of taking them in, putting them out, taking them in, putting them out. They get ungodly tight. They just get ungodly tight, and you can never get them out nicely. Sometimes they come out nicely, but most of the time they don't. For that FU Cam Bolt kit, about 50 bucks for single AVCS. If you have dual AVCS, I want to say it's about $60, a little bit more. We are running a fluid damper on this engine, so that was another $482.92 there. I have one category on here, is just OEM replacement, and that's just like hoses and bolts and little brackets, things like that were just missing on the car. Accumulating all of that, it was right around $1,150. This car was like the worst case example of what you could buy for a clapped out STI. There was quite literally just so much missing and so much wrong with this car. Now she in good shape. She in good shape. She been going to the gym. She working out. She looking good now. But when we got her, man, it was like you're picking up a lovely woman on Aurora Avenue in Seattle. A little bit old, been there a while, been around the block. Gave her a makeover. She ain't been around the block in a while. For the clutch and flywheel, we are using an OEM STI flywheel with an ACT HDSS clutch. Like I said, with me continuing to progress, learning to tune, I would like to push the car a little bit farther and farther with power. So I wanted to get it somewhat set up so that way it's already there. So when we're ready to make more power, we don't have to take the engine back out. We don't have to do a clutch shot. We don't have to do any of that. It's already set up. For that flywheel and clutch combo, you're looking at $1,021. Now, while we're sticking with the drivetrain stuff, I also got the Group N transmission mount, engine mount, and pitch stop mount kit. I forgot what that cost. I want to say it was like 150 bucks. I forgot to put on the list. I got that in there too. Sticking with the drivetrain stuff, you'll know that our STI 6-speed had a blow-up job at some point. Somebody did a blow-up job in the STI 6-speed, which I don't quite know how they did it, but there was a good amount of damage and some missing stuff and a whole bunch of metal that I took out of that transmission. So we did have to do some repairs to the STI 6-speed. Specifically, the reverse lockout was not working. That came down to there being some missing components inside of the tail shaft housing. While we were in there, we were advised to replace the rear bearing that sits in there, as well as some other missing oil splash components and whatnot. So for all of the transmission repair stuff, I kind of lumped that together. It was about 350 bucks. Now, getting into some of the performance, modification, fun stuff here. On the car, we have a Cobb front mount intercooler. I actually found that on Marketplace from a buddy. We got that for $1,000 for the entire front mount intercooler kit, which is actually not too bad. We have a Cobb SF Intake with box. That retails for 520 bucks. Little spendy, but learning to tune, it keeps the same, roughly the same MAF scaling as factory. So coming from somebody who's trying to learn how to tune, it kind of works out a little bit easier for us. The car had a very leaky Go Fast Bits blow off valve on it when I bought it, so we did replace that for a brand new OEM bypass valve. We did crush the spring in that a little bit, so that way it will hold a little bit more boost, as we do tend to turn it up a little bit more. That bypass valve comes in at $164.68. We have a Perrin turbo inlet on here. I don't even remember. I think there's a Tomei one on here and it's just soaked in oil. We really didn't reuse much from this car as I thought we would. Some stuff we did, but that turbo inlet comes in at $283.05. Cobb Map sensor. It's a Cobb 4-bar map sensor. You'll notice a theme. I tried to use as much of the Cobb stuff as I could, so that way, as I'm going through the obviously as I'm going through the process of tuning, I feel like I've said that 100 times at this point. It's just a little bit easier because all the data is already available to be able to take and import in, so that way it just makes life a little bit easier. Obviously, Cobb access port, that came with the car, so I'm not adding that in, but that is $735 for those access ports. Fuel injectors, we converted this to top feed, so we are running the ID 1050X with the PLM TGV housings. The ID 1050 is coming at $546. Okay, I didn't put it on the list for some reason, but those TGV housings are another $330 there. We are using IAG Fuel Rails. Really, a fuel rail is a fuel rail. It really doesn't matter what brand fuel rail you use. They all do the same thing, and they're all roughly the same price. So I got IAG ones for like 200 bucks. Aeromotive A1000. It's our go-to fuel pressure regulator on pretty much every Subaru that's sub like 800 wheel. Anything above that, we go to the bigger boy Aeromotive ones. For that A1000, $189.95. The fuel line to build the fuel system with the fittings was right about 200 bucks. We have an RCM 340 liter per hour fuel pump in the fuel tank. That is $138.60. Not too terrible if you ask me. Koyo Radiator up in this hoe. $403.65. Adds up so fast, dude. It adds, and there's still so much more on this list that I didn't include that were like things that I just wanted, like the lip. The OEM STI V limited lip, didn't even include that. That's like 450 bucks right there. We got a Cobb downpipe on this car. That was free because it came with the car. I did opt to have that downpipe re-cerakoted though. It's like a Gen 1 Cobb one. It's also discontinued, so I can't give you a price on it. I actually don't know what the price on that would be now. I think they were like $800 before they were discontinued. Grimspeed exhaust manifold on here. It's like their equal length, unequal length one. It comes in at $999. We're gonna round that up $1 to $1,000. Grimspeed 38 millimeter external wastegate with a tile 38 millimeter. No, it's a Grimspeed 38 millimeter external wastegate up pipe with a tile 38 millimeter external wastegate. That was actually provided to us from a subscriber, Nick. Thank you for providing that for us. Big shout out there. If you were to buy those, that up pipe is discontinued. I don't know what to tell you there. PLM makes one and PRL also make one though. Pretty good quality on the PRL one. PLM one, it works. It works though. For the 38 millimeter external wastegate, you're looking at $359.95 there. For the catback on the car, it came with the car. It's NVIDIA Q300. Honestly, not a bad catback. It's like the perfect level of sound. That I'm putting a 0 because it came with the car, so that's included in the price. That was $779.06 though if you were to buy that MSRP. The DOS Performance Turbo that we have on the car, that was actually provided to us from DOS Performance, so huge shout out to them. It is like this, it's honestly a crazy stock location turbo. After I was reading into it more, I'll put a link down in the description for anyone who might be curious in that. It's a 2.4-inch inlet, originally created for like high altitude stuff, but it's got an Inconel wheel. It's freaking nuts. It's co-designed with Blouch. Like I said, I'll link it down below. Go check it out if you want. That turbo does come in at $2,600 if that is something that you guys are interested in. For the power stuff, once we get to tuning this thing and everything like that on the dyno, you guys will be able to see the dyno graph and like power numbers on both pump gas and E85 on that turbo. So I'm very curious to see what that thing actually does. Now getting into some of the other stuff that just needed replaced on this car. Power steering rack. Ungodly expensive for Subarus. Ungodly. No, this is the power steering pump. This is also very expensive. $614 for a new power steering pump because the one that I took off of here was pissing fluid out of the backside. I'm talking R. Kellying my EJ all day. As long as that engine was running, my engine was getting R. Kelly'd, and I did not appreciate it. So that was $614.36 there for a new power steering pump. For the new power steering rack, because that was also R. Kellying my subframe, $906.36 there. Didn't appreciate the fluid going everywhere. Oh, one more timing thing that we missed that I did have to add in there was the RCM adjustable idler pulleys, because the heads that I bought secondhand were obviously decked too many times, so we had to adjust the timing belt a little bit. Those pulleys come in at $271.99, but if you are going to time your engine and you're having issues getting it to stay in time, and it's a belt issue where you have everything lined up but it won't line up and you're like losing your mind, those adjustable pulleys do come in clutch. We use them on this car, fantastic. Some other random stuff that just needed replaced was the starter. The starter wasn't OEM and it didn't want to start every time. Like when I say it didn't want to start, I'm not saying like the engine didn't want to crank over and like try to fire. Like the starter didn't want to turn over all the time. So we did get a new starter. That comes in at $443.05. The engine harness, we did replace that with a factory brand new Subaru one. Especially, I wanted one before they discontinued them. Funny enough, Subaru is discontinuing more things. I think the latest one on the chopping block was the knuckles. 05 to 07 STI knuckles are now on the chopping block for discontinuation. But for that engine harness, $362.78. Hodor. Tires were another one because the tires on this car were quite literally bald, and there were 3 different brands on here. So for tires, 1,250 bucks. We just went with a 245 4017 DW Continental Extreme Contact Sport. One of my favorite tires for living in the Pacific Northwest. They're good in rain, they're good in sun, they're good in snow. They're okay in snow, they're not great in snow, but it's a good all-year tire. Brakes were another big one, which I'm still actually fighting with right now. The brakes on the car were questionable at best. They were very outlived for the life of the car for what was on here, and the braking performance whenever I was driving it, it was not confidence inspiring at all. So we did do new pads, new rotors. I'm still fighting with the rear rotors right now to get something that will not rub. I'm having some weird rear rotor issues on here. The brakes and pads came out to 850 bucks. I don't know if I said it, but the engine harness was another 362.78. The rear suspension was one that I didn't think that we would have to tackle, but we had to tackle. Needed new wheel bearings. The rear dust shields were so rusted that was coming in contact with the rotor just from rust, and it was pushing it forward. So for wheel bearings, new lateral links because they were literally rusted in place and I had to cut them out. And everything else that went into the rear suspension, that was another $1,450 there. This is a lot of money. Okay, this is no longer a budget STI. I surprised Pikachu myself when I added all this up. I have done this before, so it shouldn't be a surprise. But I was surprised, I was shocked, I was flabbergasted, okay? It's my word of the day, is flabbergasted today. A couple other things, we did do coilovers on the car, got rid of the rusty old suspension. Those were actually provided to us from the guys down at Import Image Racing, so huge shout out to them for sending up a set of their silver Neomax coilovers. I have not had an opportunity to see how they drive quite yet, but if you are interested in those coilovers, they're about $1,400 there. The interior of the car still needs some love here and there. We did opt to replace the OEM STI seats with a different set of OEM STI seats because the ones that originally came in the car, they were ripped, they were torn, they just had a lot of issues, and quite frankly, if I'm going to be sitting in this car quite often, I want it to be relatively comfortable, not getting stabbed by a seat spring or anything else like that. There's a couple other things in the interior that still need replaced and fixing, like the center console, the rear cup holders, the rear view mirror, and a couple other things inside of the car, but I'm not going to worry about that stuff quite yet. The seats, we're able to get those for 300 bucks off of Marketplace, so honestly, not a bad deal there. We missed one for earlier for performance stuff, which was the IAG air oil separator. That's $500 there. So, and I'm sure that I missed some other stuff that were supposed to be on the list that I didn't even think of. Or there's other things I didn't have, like I said, the lip and a couple other small things. I have the Spec C STI intercooler tank in the trunk now. Was that required? No. Did I buy it? Yeah. Did I want it? Yeah. Do I think it's cool? Yeah. Do I care if you think it's cool? No. Do I think it's cool? Absolutely. I like it. I like it. I think that was like another 350 bucks there. There's like money spent in other areas that I didn't have to spend, but I left those out because they were optional. Just to get this budget STI to a point where it is now, and this is not including the part that, like the price of parts that were provided to us. I excluded those prices because we did not pay for them. At the end of the day, I have spent roughly $28,679.68 on this budget 2006 STI. I had originally allocated like maybe like 10K additional to the car, so maybe like 18. I went over budget by $10,000, mainly because there were a lot more. I didn't foresee the transmission problems, didn't foresee the rear suspension problems, didn't foresee the brake problems, didn't foresee a lot of the other little issues that the car had that I had to go in there and tackle. So realistically, what I would advise to you guys, if you guys are wanting to buy a clapped out or budget friendly STI like this one, or you're kind of like weighing the options, like do I want to buy one, do all the work to it, or do I want to buy the one that's a little bit nicer? I would say if you don't plan on modifying it crazy, or you don't plan on doing something like this to it, buy one that is already within that like $25,000 to $30,000 price range. Keep in mind, I did all the labor on this myself, so I did not include any labor prices in this, but if you buy a clapped out one and it needs a lot of work and you take it to a shop, the majority of your money spent there is probably going to be labor in addition to your parts. I would probably realistically add on like 40 to 60% labor cost in addition to your parts, depending on where you live and like how much your shop rate is. But the labor is what's going to kill you, and it will turn a $28,000 car like this into a $40,000 car, or maybe a $35,000 to $40,000 car, depending on how much your shop charges. So thankfully I do have the knowledge and the know-how to be able to do all of this, so I can buy these budget, I keep saying budget, this is not a budget car anymore. This has surpassed a budget STI. This is like a half restored good mechanically sound STI at this point. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you are contemplating buying kind of a clapped out one and you do plan on heavily modifying it or doing something like this, in the long run, it probably will save you a little bit more money than buying a nicer one up front, because you can build the car how you want. Like, because we didn't buy a $25,000 to $30,000 GD chassis, STI or whatever, it kind of gave us the freedom to be able to design it and build it how we want to build it, versus starting out with one that was more like $20,000 more expensive, and it would be set back that additional cost. So I'd say it's a, what do they call it, a double-edged blade, where on one hand you can have a nice car to begin with, drive it and enjoy it for a while, and then start to modify it if you so choose to, or you can buy a really shitty one and have to do everything up front and then enjoy it afterwards. So, you know, it's got its pros and cons. If you don't mind doing the work yourself, I would definitely say buy one of the more budget-friendly options like this. If you want to buy one just to go drive and enjoy, spend a little bit more money and get one that is a little bit nicer. But on the bright side with this, now we know everything is mechanically sound, so we really shouldn't have anything to worry about for a while. So as I progress in learning to tune, I really shouldn't have to stress too much anything on the mechanical side with this car. Not so friendly budget STI price breakdown, there you guys go. I know some people were asking about how much it would cost. Roughly, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. If you want one that you can just hop in and drive immediately, buy one that's a little bit nicer. My honest opinion, the days of clean and cheap GD STIs are far behind us, especially with Subaru starting to discontinue parts for these. I do foresee the prices of 04 to 07 STIs increasing. They didn't make they made a lot of them, but they didn't make as many like GDs as they did GRGVs or like VAs. So this will probably be the generation that probably holds its value the best long term, despite mileage, in my opinion. With that, that's all I got for you guys on this one. I hope this answers your questions for the parts list, the price breakdown, and my opinion on if you should buy one that's kind of clapped or just buy one that's a little bit nicer up front. So with that, if you guys like the video, you guys know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, sight, and whatever color it might turn for you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be able to put it in one of these corners, no idea which one quite yet, but with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies.